Do you know that actually the term manifestation might be inappropriate, and that in actuality you're not really manifesting, creating, or attracting anything, but rather what it's happening in terms of physics? Because yes, today we're going to talk about the science behind the law of assumption. You are actually moving into different realities because your world is your hologram. If you're interested, just keep on watching. Hello everyone, and my name is Neyah, and on this channel we talk everything about manifestation, quantum physics, and so much more. And on Patreon I do make extra video, and if you want one-on-one coaching with me, you can head on to my website, neyahdimension.com. In the section live session, you can book a reading and a coaching with me if you need to. But now, today, let's get started with this topic around your world is your hologram. And actually, there is a higher chance that basically we are playing a game. And if you want to know more about the hologram and simulation theory, I have a video dedicated for you. And if you want to know more about the science behind the law of assumption, I do have a webinar, and the link is down below. For those of you who are curious, it's a 5 hours webinar about science. But anyway, discussing briefly this topic, many people do address manifestation as either in the law of attraction community, obviously something that is attracted to you and you're attracting into your reality, whether it is love, money, or whatnot. And in the law of assumption community, you're just creating it, you're just materializing it and manifesting it. But actually, I have been studying for a while a branch of quantum physics called Cubism. Cubism is a branch of quantum physics that studies the implication of quantum mechanics. And according to this theory, which today I'm going to read a book about it, actually we could possibly live in an hologram, and so we're not attracting anything to us, we're not even materializing or creating things out of thin air, even though the 3D will look like we are materializing things out of thin air. But actually what it's happening is that we, through our observations and perception, through our thoughts and our imaginations, so where our consciousness resides, because I do believe that our consciousness resides in imagination. Imagination could be also thoughts, by the way. We are actually moving and shifting into different realities that exist all at the same time in the superconscious mind, in the super world. Now, this theory of Cubism was really fascinating for me to understand, and hopefully it's going to help you out understand better manifestation, and will be fascinating for you to understand as well, because there were so many parallel with the teachings of Neville Goddard, Florence Scovel, and many other teachers. In fact, the famous, notorious Neville Goddard used to say, "There is no one to change but self." And actually, creation is finished. Now, let's analyze super briefly these two sentences. If there is no one to change but ourselves, obviously then there is a high chance that Cubism is right when he's saying that through our observation, through our perception, we are changing something inside of ourselves, and therefore changing as well reality. And I think this is indeed the case, because even Dr. Joe Dispenza says the very famous quote that I quote all the time on my channel: your personality changes your personal reality, because of the observer effect. Very simple term, the observer effect is nothing but you observe a reality within your mind, and therefore you collapse a probable quantum wave that exists in the super world, what Plato used to call the world of idea. Even Florence Scovel, in her first chapter of The Game of Life and How to Play It, she does indeed mentions the superconscious mind, which is the mind of God, of infinite intelligence, and she mentions Plato and the theory of ideas. And so it is very interesting to see all this parallel between philosophers, new thought movement teachers, as well as quantum physics, because it gives us more chance and probability that indeed this is how this universe operates. Now, obviously, disclaimer is that there is no solid science that can prove manifestation yet, but there are definitely research around the holographic theory that I highly suggest you to look into, because they are highly fascinating, and they could make science meet spirituality, which I think will be amazing. So obviously that's something that I needed to say. But so we are basically creating our own personal holograms, and therefore we are not manifesting anything. And why creation is finished? Creation is finished because all the possible realities already exist in the multiverse, in the superconscious mind. Now, in quantum physics, there are various theories. One of the most famous is obviously the theory of Hugh Everett, the many world interpretation of quantum mechanics. All that there are many worlds which exist in parallel at the same space and time as our own, and the existence of the other worlds makes it possible to remove randomness and action at a distance from quantum theory and thus from all physics. Was a quantum physicist that talked about the multi-world theory, so that actually these probabilities of world exist all at the same time in a sort of superposition. It looks like a very difficult term, but superposition is nothing but realities that exist stacked on top of each other. That's all that is to it, right? And this multi-world actually do exist in the multiverse, but through our observation, through our mind, our thoughts, we decide to enter certain worlds compared to others. Now, this is the theory, very simplified. Other quantum theory says that instead these are just quantum waves of probability. For the purpose of this video, it doesn't really matter where you're standing, whether you believe in the multi-world or not, because I really do believe that what matters is the understanding that we are living a game, and we are living and therefore playing an interactive destiny. So the terminology interactive destiny, I think it's perfect, and I am stealing it from Andrew Soltau, who is an analyst of quantum physics, and I will read some quotes from his book that you can find on Amazon, and it's called Who You Really Are and How Reality Actually Works. Andrew Soltau. So I'm stealing this terminology because I really liked it. So Andrew Soltau explains in the book how we are just shifting realities, and therefore our free will, it's nothing but interactive destiny. And the way we interact with certain destinies is obviously through our mind, through our consciousness. Now, before I read you anything from this book, because you can read it, I think everybody can read it, but certain terminologies might be a little bit more difficult, so I'm going to make it easier for you guys. So what do we mean with interactive destinies and actually not manifesting anything but shifting realities? Now, what you guys have to understand, and this is very, very similar, interestingly enough, to the concept of reality transurfing by Vadim Zeland, who is also a quantum physicist, a Russian quantum physicist. So what happens, according to this theory, it's not that we have absolute control of every single circumstance in our life. And this reminds me of Neville Goddard and the Bible, because in the Bible, I was reading it yesterday, it is said that God is saying, I am the beginning and the end. I am the Alpha and the Omega. And Neville comments on this passage of the Bible, indicating that you should go straight to your wish fulfilled. You know the beginning, and the beginning is your desire, whatever it is that you want, and because you know your desire, what you want, you know the end, you know where your desire is taking, but the middle is not up to you to know, and you should leave it to God, to infinite intelligence. Now, the reason scientifically, the reason why this could possibly be the truth, it's because if you think about the idea of a super world or a multi-world where every probability exists. Now, when we're talking about probability, you guys, you have to understand that there are certain probabilities that are more likely to happen and certain probabilities that are less likely to happen. For example, I could desire to be the president of the United States, and that could be a probability in the multiverse, but let's be realistic for a second. Is there a chance that, how high is the probability that I will become the president of the United States? Since I'm Italian, very low probability. So this is how probability works. Nobody says that it's impossible necessarily. Everything is possible, but we certainly have to consider probabilities as higher chance, more likely to happen, less likely to happen. Now, obviously, the higher chance to happen, it really has to, I think it's a mixture between common sense to a degree, like the election of the United States president, and also your belief system, right? So I'm not interested in becoming the president of the United States. It's not a desire. There is very low probabilities, of course, and it's common sense, but at the same time, it doesn't really come to my desire. So it might not be in my highest probable life track to manifest or to shift in that reality. But yet again, nothing is impossible. So that's something to consider when we're talking about probabilities, because otherwise I feel the majority of people think about, oh, every probability exists, therefore I can again become the president of the United States if I'm Italian. And yes, it exists, but there is a lower chance of it. It's far further down from you. It's not impossible, but probabilities works in this way, just to understand, okay? And I'm not saying with this video that I am correct. I'm just stating what I learned so we can share it with each other, okay? So why we cannot control the middle that much is because if we think about all the probabilities, all this world existing at the same time, we know that the 3D reality, according to Newtonian physics, is predetermined. So once you have shifted into a particular reality, you have quantum jumped into a reality, you're back in the world of the 3D. You're back in the world of deterministic probabilities, like everything is determined. In fact, for Newtonian and classical physics, free will doesn't even exist. Now, to understand it as Neville Goddard will teach it, or as any other teacher of the law will make you understand, and reality transurfing mentions this as well, you have to think about this. You have a desire. Your thoughts and your imagination can make you change your observation and perception. It makes you shift in that reality where your desire is already actualized. And I have other videos on how to do that, all right? You become that person, you think certain thoughts, you affirm, visualize, or whatnot. But in the moment that you have shifted yourself into that reality, that particular life track, that reality has already a script. So you need to go directly to the end, because there is no point controlling the middle. First, you might get a burnout, might get exhausting to control everything about your reality. Third, it might be pointless, because all that you're doing, you're not controlling every circumstance. You're shifting into a reality where you are already experiencing what you want, and it will look like you have manifested it, you have materialized it. But that reality, that section of reality, has its own script and falls under 3D Newtonian physical law. So even Vadim Zeland explains it in this way. Think about life track as one on top of each other, and you, through your thoughts, deciding which lifeline you are entering to. And that will be interactive destiny. We, through our thoughts, imagination, and observation, we decide what sort of reality to enter to. What we know is our desire, and what we know is the ending goal, is the end of the movie. We know where we're going. We know that in that reality, we're gonna get the money that we want, we're gonna get the love that we want, and so on and so forth. But we don't know how that reality is going to unfold, because in the middle way, the unfoldment, the bridge of events, is determined by determine the physical laws. So it's not up to us to know. So that's very interesting. Now let's read the word of Andrew Soltau about it, so you understand better why we might possibly not only create our hologram, but we might shift into different realities rather than attracting or materializing, creating, and therefore manifesting. So interactive destiny sounds like a contradiction in terms, Andrew Soltau writes, but this is exactly what happens in the super world. Again, what is the super world? Our mind is divided by a conscious mind, which is what you're using to watch this video, a subconscious mind, which takes direction from you and lies underneath. Think about an iceberg. Your conscious mind is the top of the iceberg. The subconscious mind is what goes underneath, and you might not be always super conscious of it. And then we have a super conscious mind, which is divine consciousness, is what Jung also called the collective collective consciousness, and therefore is the super world. The super world could be translated even into the spirit world, where God, infinite intelligence, resides, the source of all creation. So Andrew Soltau writes, unwittingly, one is constantly engaged with the destiny of the whole of one's physical reality. So not only we are engaging in physical reality with our own personal destiny, according to Andrew Soltau, but we are engaging with the collective destiny as well. So we are co-creating all together our personal holograms within the universe hologram. I hope this is easy to understand. So let's mention destiny for a second. In Newtonian mechanics, the world is as predictable as a clock. Like I said, for classical physics, you guys, free will doesn't exist because everything is ruled by the law of cause and effect. And the cause and effect in the Newtonian physics is what I can see has a cause and as an effect. And if I can know the cause, I can easily predict the effect that is going to have to the world. Simple metaphor to make you understand this: the apple falls down from the tree. Law of gravity. It is predictable that the apple falls down from the tree. Just to make you understand. We might not know enough about some physical situation that we can predict exactly what will happen in the future, but it is actually predetermined. So the 3D is actually utterly predetermined. In other words, the destiny of the world is fixed and certain. So free will is an illusion according to Newtonian physics, as numerous philosophers have in fact declared. The new physics though, which is quantum physics, I get so excited talking about this. The new physics shows us something quite different. The state of the world is defined in terms of probabilities, which is what I explained to you before, rather than certainties. This means the future is still predetermined, but in terms of probabilities. What does it mean? Exactly what I explained to you before, guys. The future is predetermined because there are various life tracks with their own script. However, it's you who decide to quantum jump in those realities, and this is how you create your own personal hologram. As each and this is why tarot work, because tarot allow the talented psychic to see the possible probabilities that a person is entering into the future, and a talented psychic will see multiple probabilities according to your observation, thoughts, and action. And if you want to know more about the validity of tarot and astrology, I have more tarot than astrology. You can watch one of my video on my channel, how tarot can predict the future, also according to the law of assumption. As each observation is made, the probabilities of future events are changed. Let's read it again. As each observation, how do we observe? With our sensorium and with our imagination. Sensorium is a scientific term to indicate touch, taste, smell, and sight. So we make observation with our sensorium, but we also make our observation with our thoughts and with our imagination. So as each observation is made, the probabilities of future events are changed. By changing our thoughts and by changing our observation according to quantum physics, we are changing the events of the future. So yet again, there is no one to change but self. We are not changing outer circumstances of the 3D world because those are already predetermined. We are jumping into realities where the outcome of the future is different. Interesting, right? And so when we understand this, why I'm doing this video? Well, first is interesting. Second is because when we understand this, I think that we let go of a lot of resistance and need to control every single circumstance. It's easier for us to understand manifestation, and it's a lot of fun to just say, you know, I just know the end of the movie. I might not know how I'm gonna get to my desire, but I know I'm gonna get there because I can see it in my mind. I know that the end is granted, is already given to me, and it just makes it so much fun and so much easier, and you don't get a spoiler effect in regards of your life because you're entering a new life track with the surprise of not knowing how the bridge of events is going to unfold, but you know you're definitely gonna get what you want, which is kind of reassuring. So So the destiny is constantly changing as new observations are made. The destiny is always changing because you're always shifting to new realities depending upon your thoughts and your observation. Still no free will. It all just happens. So the super world is different again, because what Angel Tao is trying to say, the free will doesn't really exist in the world of Caesar. It doesn't really exist in the 3D. Free will only exists in the super world. So in the mind of God, in consciousness, we make decision through consciousness. Every other action that you might perceive as free will, it's actually an illusion. And that also what Neville Goddard has said, and this is why Neville Goddard was a genius, because he didn't even know about quantum physics. So there you go. The super world is different again, defined solely by what has been observed. The extraordinary news is that in one personal world, in your own hologram, one is constantly biasing the process of observation, altering the probabilities. So in your own world, you can change your thoughts, you can change your perspective, and therefore you're changing the world of probabilities. The origin of, as a result, one is effectively interactive with destiny. Do you understand now why we're interacting with destiny? Because we're constantly changing our observation through the super world, therefore through our consciousness. The origin of this capability is described later on, where it is also shown that this means free will becomes a possibility. When free will becomes a possibility? In your mind, in your imagination, in the super world, not in the 3D world. And that is why Neville Goddard has said imagination is God, because it's the only source of creation that can actually make you shift and change the hologram. This is so fascinating. So I don't want to bore you too much to death about the book, because there are other things like the law of expectation that I talked about in my other videos that are very interesting. But just to finish this very long video, I want to talk about the power of thoughts and why, according to the holographic theory and according to Angel Tao, thoughts alone are not enough, but in what way? Okay, so I'm reading chapter 5 and the section is Attractors. There is a popular idea, Andrew says, called the law of attraction, that if you think about the things you want, they will be attracted to you. Obviously though, just having certain thoughts does not alter objective physical reality, and it is so interesting how it for him is like common sense. Unfortunately, it doesn't. If you just think about what you want, that doesn't mean that you're changing in physical reality, because you thinking about what you want, and is what Neville Goddard called daydreaming, just wishing for things or thinking about things that you want. It's like hope, but it doesn't have the power to make you shift or change the hologram. That is just basic physics. I mean, if the window glass is glass, it's not because I'm thinking that it's plastic, it's gonna turn into plastic. That's basic physics according to Andrew Tao. But if you visualize, and this is very Neville Goddard by the way, but if you visualize a desired objective consistently and clearly, this will induce expectations. Now, many people said that the law of expectation is a made-up law. No, it isn't. It is a law that is actually backed up by science. So the people that want to attack me, I don't know, attack me, who cares, but want to say this thing, I highly suggest you to look a little bit into quantum physics and Cubism before you just say that I invented the law of expectations, because I don't like to invent stuff. I read about it, and that's that. Because, you know, that's what it is. So it will induce an expectation, which gives rise to confirmation bias. Now, confirmation bias, he talked about it in a chapter before. It's nothing but expecting a certain thing and therefore changing your observation to the point where you already feel or think, at the very least, as the person that already has what you want, because manifestation boils down to identification, like I said, millions of time. So which gives rise to confirmation bias, and this alters the path you take through the branching possibilities. Guys, in simple terms, just thinking about what you want doesn't get you anywhere, because if you just think about what you want, you're still in the world of Caesar. You're still in the 3D, thinking that you're attracting or materializing things to you. It doesn't work that way. You change yourself, you become the person that already has what you want. You expect the money, the SP, the love to come into your reality because you already have embraced that identity in the first place. And because of the identity factor, that's why it becomes your reality. Because instead of being in the 3D and going to a direction that is straightforward and that's only one life track that has its own frames and has its own script, you are pulling back the energy back to you. You're changing your observation, you're changing self, and you are quantum jumping in a completely different reality. And that's why when it comes down, for example, to SPs, I always say it's pointless for you to look at circumstances or think about the past, because your SP is in a reality, like the SP that you are experiencing right now, it's in your reality, but you want to be in a different reality where SP is conforming or is loving you in the way that you want, and that SP and this SP have nothing to do with each other. They live in different worlds. Same for the money, same for other stuff. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? And I have a video, by the way, dedicated to this. So the effect actually works, but not because anything is attracted to you, Andrew Soltau says. It seems as if it changes the real world, but actually it just changes you. There is no one to change but self. The 3D world cannot change, but because you change, you are creating your own hologram, and therefore you are shifting reality. And the changes which version of it changes you. It doesn't change the reality, it changes you. And because it changes you, and that changes which version of the world you are likely to gravitate toward the future. It changes the version of the world that you are gravitating towards the future. You know the beginning and the end, not the middle. That's because, you know why you don't know the middle? Because you're jumping into a different reality. So repeatedly focusing on the things you want in your life means you are more and more likely to experience them coming true. So when you are affirming, affirmation do work because it's a constant reminder that you are becoming the person that already has that thing, but it's not the affirmation in and of itself that manifests. It's your identification, it's your renewed observation that manifests. Technically, the results is a strange attractor, meaning an emergent tendency in your holographic universe, as described in later chapter. What is extraordinary is that this phenomenon applies to the whole of your world. You're changing the entire reality, the entire structure of your world. In other words, it affects which version of events you are likely to experience with regards to all events everywhere. If you had misheard someone saying the results of a major election, you might now be living a version of the world with a different result. And that's exactly what Neville says. If you're worried about a virus or you're worried about a war or stuff like that, if you change your observation and perception, you will live in a reality where even if that is happening, it wouldn't exist for you because you will have shifted reality. You understand how powerful this is? You could literally live in a world where, let's say, this person has won the election. You align to another version of reality through your observation. In your reality, this other person has won the elections. So this is why, guys, arguing about opinions, it's a pendulum and it is stupid. Everything is true. Everything is right. This is what quantum physics has taught me. There is no black or white. There is no reality that is true or not. There is a world, there is evidence to support all theories. Everyone is right in their own world, and that's why love should be the fundamental basis of our creations and our existence, because when you understand that everyone is right, you can love everyone because you don't have the need to be right. Everyone is creating their own world, and it doesn't matter to argue. It doesn't matter to fight for one another. We can just be kind and love one another. There is no competition. There is no lack. This is all stuff that was made up. You know what I mean? Very interesting. If you had, sorry, that is the extraordinary difference between the reality of an holographic universe and the reality of an ordinary physical world. In an ordinary physical world, you will think that that is the only solid reality, but in a holographic reality, you will understand that that is just one of the realities that exist that you have chosen to participate into. And this is what Neville said is thinking fourth dimensionally, is understand the world of the superconscious mind and needs to understand these probabilities and the fact that you can choose whatever pathways. And if you're thinking, yeah, how did I ended up in this shitty reality then? Well, unfortunately, through your observation and identifications for whatever reason. It means that positive expectations, and again, the law of expectancy, which is not a made-up law, it means that the positive expectations are very important with regard of all reality. Interactive destiny is a global, holistic effect. The positive results of strange attractors is nicely illustrated by the famous mountaineer William Murray. So he quotes William Murray, and William Murray quotes, "The moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too." It's the same story. If you commit to yourself, you decide to change self, then destiny changes. A whole stream of events issued from the decision rising in one's favor, all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance, which no man could have dreamed would have come his way. If you decide that you have won whatever thing, the reality is you're going to shift into a reality where it's going to do everything to make you win, because that's a reality that through your observation you are aligning to. 9051, by the way. This providence is the strange attractors in action. When such a commitment is made to an outcome, it becomes increasingly anticipated, and thus the expectation creates strange attractors. When you commit to your wish fulfilled, which is exactly what Neville Goddard has said, you commit more and more and more every single day through visualization and affirmations, then this strange attractors, but it's not an attractor, you're moving to that reality, and unforeseen forces can come your way and bring you your desire, because it's already done. And so it becomes more and more likely to be experienced happening in the real world. Thus, in time, as he describes, all kinds of assistance quite outside of ordinary likelihood tend to appear. Kind of miracle, right? It seems exactly as if the universe provides assistance. This is interactive destiny at work. When you're shifting reality and you're manifesting, but you're just shifting your hologram, it looks like magical stuff are happening your way and things that you could never even think about before. But that's because you are not anymore in that older reality. You're just changing it completely. The meaning is fantastic. We can do interactive destiny deliberately through our conscious mind by visualizing our desired outcomes and anchoring them in commitment. So life really is a game, and a game of skill at that. The rules of play are addressed in later chapters, and he also talks about karma and why karma is right, which is nothing but the golden rule of Neville Goddard and New Thought movement. So life is just a game, and you just have to know to play the rule of the game and practice. And it's very interesting how he concludes the chapter, and then I promise I'll stop talking. But he says, so you decide what you want, and then you deliberately affirm and visualize, your desired outcome, and you harden it into fact. You anchor that outcome into reality through commitment. So you don't go back and forth. You don't complain, because you know that you want to shift into a reality where you got the money, you got the career, you got whatever it is that you want. So every single day you commit to that outcome and you go straight to the end with whatever technique you choose to use. And this is why you're not really manifesting, you're not really attracting, neither materializing, but you're shifting reality, and your world is your hologram. I love you guys. I hope this video was informational. Let me know in the comment section down below. And actually, I'm gonna be live after this video, so I highly suggest you to stick around so you can ask me questions about the world of the hologram and all of this fun stuff. Please stay, comment down below, let me know your thoughts, subscribe so you don't ever lose other premieres or videos and more lives. And yeah, I'll see you later. Love you guys.